That is right. Spooky season series number, I don't know, 4 or 5. I got so many coming up. It's ridiculous. It's the big bad devil daddy himself. And this time I brought along a super, super fantastical, legendary film composer, John Massari. And as you can see, he's brought a few little of his friends with him. As you probably well know, that he is the reason for the music of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Without him, it wouldn't have been as fun, dark, and spooky as hell. So before we get into this storied career, because he's literally worked for every major person out there. So we're going to take a quick commercial break to our brothers over at, oh, shoot, man. The doll's fucking me up. I love it. See, eat that pizza now. Over at Villain Arts Tattoo Conventions. Check that shit out while I pick myself up off the fucking ground. Here we go. That's right. Villain Arts Tattoos, biggest, largest conventions in the U.S. If they come to your town, you know what the fuck to do. Go there, get yourself some quality ink, as well as taking in all the amazing performers and vendors that are there. So without further ado, John Massari, how you doing tonight, my brother?
I'm doing fine. While we're on the subject of ink, you seem like you're pretty well inked up. You probably have a story for every particular. I have a very good friend. I'm going to shout out a friend of mine. There's 2 friends actually. Ashley with 2 E's and Jackie with 2 E's. They have some of the coolest Killer Clown tattoos around. They're close friends of mine. One lives in Connecticut and one lives here in California. And as you can imagine, they're major Killer Clown fans. And Jackie with 2 E's always asks me, are you ever going to get a tattoo? And I go, I haven't figured out what to put on this Italian boy's body. I really haven't figured it out. Actually, I did come up with something, but I don't know if I'm going to do it. It's more of a slogan than a design. But I'm sure with all every single one has a story and a memory and the reason why you got it. And
absolutely.
You can point to it. You think of doing a podcast where you just talk about your tattoos.
Man, that I don't know. It might fill up an hour. It just depends on if my viewers actually want to hear the stories.
Well, I'm always fascinated. There's someone I work with who's the CEO of a company called Extreme Music and Bleeding Fingers. Which is an outfit that was founded by a group of really awesome composers. Principal among them was Hans Zimmer. Anyways, the CEO, his name is Russell Emanuel, and every year he gets a new tattoo. And he has a story behind each one. He's an incredible bass player. He used to play in a punk band in London called Finger. I think that's the name of the band.
I like it. It's simple.
Yeah. And so here we are. You have? I'll answer your questions, or we have to keep it with an hour or half an hour.
Like I said, usually an hour. It don't matter if we go over it. Not a big deal.
I'm fine. I'm fine with an hour or so. I just don't want to. I don't want to blow your
totally
format.
fine.
I don't want to blow your
my
format.
format is simple. It's called having fun, and all my demons out there love to have fun with every guest that we come with. So especially Kyler, who just said, welcome John to the show, and thanks for being part of my childhood nightmares.
Well, I'm very happy, Kyler, that it's some part of your life. But you gotta admit, that guy's pretty creepy. This is a Spirit Halloween, and this is Royal Baubles. This is, in my opinion, is the best shorty. I mean, they really got him down. They did the proportions just perfect. So anyway,
absolutely. So good evening to you, Paul. And so at what point did you decide that film score, composing, and TV as well? At what point did you decide that that's what you wanted to do? Was there a film or a show that kind of kicked that off for you?
I think it was kind of an evolution. First of all, music. I always loved music. Music always captivated me in a way, and that is, I can't express with words, but it gave me an experience and put me in a frame of mind. Ever since I was a little kid, I mean, I was fascinated with the radio. You couldn't get me away from the radio. It got to the point where my parents got sick and tired of waking up at 2:30 in the morning to me playing with the hi-fi system in the living room.
Nice.
So they got me a little radio, and I would just look at that thing and listen to music constantly. And in my mind, I romanticized that, like, all the bands, they're always at the radio station making music all the time. Yeah, they're actually there playing, and we're listening to them play. And I didn't realize that they're constantly playing recordings, and it, until I was like 4. Then I realized, oh, you mean this record they played at the record, station. And I listened to everything. I would listen to classical music. I would listen to, they had these series of records called, they were played by an orchestra called the 101 Strings. And they played whatever pop music was being released that year. They would do like a string orchestra arrangement of it. And there was a radio station that you just played that stuff all the time. Amazing. And I used to listen to that. I listened to the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Herman's Hermits. And I used to sing along. I wanted to play guitar so bad. Oh, I wanted to play guitar. So I wanted to play guitar so bad. I got a ruler and strung up rubber bands on it and pretended, listen to it. So we're going to talk about the evolution. So there was a period in American history, it was like during the Vietnam War, the earlier days of the Vietnam War. And there was a scare that we had where the Soviet Union decided it would be just like the United States had missiles in Europe. They thought it'd be a good idea to put missiles with nuclear warheads on Cuba. Fun. And this was called the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? It was in October. It was in the month of October, a million years ago. And this empty field, I grew up in, I was born in New York, but we grew up in Southern California. And there was this area near Disneyland called Garden, empty field, not too far from our house, literally a few blocks. We basically lived kind of like between Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm, right? I don't know if you've heard of those two amusement parks, but anyways, so there was this empty field, and not far from this empty field was this tower with a big white ball on it, right? And so all of a sudden, this empty field was full of missiles that I later find out are called Nike missiles. They were anti-aircraft, anti-ballistic missiles that were just there. It was probably it seemed like hundreds, but there's probably like 40 or 50 of them, right? And and I thought, oh, this is part of the moon program. This is part of the space program. These are space. You're going to be going. Not really. So during this time, all the grown-ups were going crazy collecting, toilet paper, cans of beans, and figuring out what they're going to do during this apocalyptic event. And the kids, it was Halloween. We were just having fun. So the theater had a bunch of we're playing all kinds of movies. All right, parents would say, "Here, just go to the movies. Here's 25 cents. Go to the movies. Get out of our hair while we prepare."
Back when you could do that.
So I saw this one triple feature. It was Journey to the Earth, The Time Machine, and Mysterious Island. And I was captivated, like literally like glued to my seat. And I go, that was incredible. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. And so after that, it's like no other movies could compare. I was trying to look for a movie with that experience. I found out later what really affected me with those movies was the music soundtracks, how important the music was in being part of the whole landscape of your cinematic experience. So it wasn't till and of course my mom had a piano. She started taking piano lessons. She just couldn't do it, and I picked it up from there. And I used to tape. I used to watch Lost in Space.
That was huge back then.
Right, with Johnny Williams, score by Johnny Williams. And I used to take. We had this like little Philco reel-to-reel, Philips reel-to-reel tape recorder, tiny little thing. And I used to take, if I heard something that was interesting, I'd tape it and then play it back. Put the thing up to the television. It had this like little tiny microphone, and then I'd sit at the piano and I'd try to like figure out what it was that I liked about it. I did not realize that it was a skill that you could learn to be a film composer, and an actual occupation, an actual career, right?
Yeah.
Until I was like 11 or 12.
It's not like something that they push, when they're pushing marching band and, symphony band and orchestra.
Exactly. So anyway, so I say since I was 11 or 12, that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
But I also played all kinds of music in there's a band that I played in called Crisis. And
nice.
We one year when David Bowie released Changes. Changes, we said, we got to write original music because that's so awesome. And also there's a band that I think David Bowie produced. I'm not sure. David Bowie or someone else produced called. It was a band called Mott the Hoople, and they had a song called All the Young Dudes, and our band used to play that, and then we said, we gotta come up with our own music, and so that's where the Killer Clown March. That's where that came from. I did it. And the guys in my band said, that sounds too jazzy, man. It's too jazzy. It's not rock and roll enough. And so, what are you going to do? And so years later, when I saw the film, I said, I'm going to haul that thing out of mothballs and see if it works. And And so that's how that worked. And I would say, you know, if I was going to say to other people, I mean, I know people that may have a horrendously, incredibly successful career doing commercial music. When I say commercial music, is that their production facility gets called and say, we need this kind of music for this project, and they'll cook it up for them, right? And I did that for the longest time. You know, there was an expectation that, like, well, if you're going to go to college, are you going to, after you graduate, are you going to, you know, work at Warner Brothers, you know, fill out an application there and work as a composer for them? And I had no idea about that, right? And that's not the way it works, you know. So I made the career mistake of trying to please everyone by showing them how much work I can get. I'm using air quotes here. Work I can get that paid. And you know, you just have to know where the money is, where the demand is. Like, I worked in commercials for a long time, and I must say, although it was very interesting, and I learned a lot of techniques. I learned a lot of got a lot of production chops, composing chops. It wasn't as fulfilling as doing your own music. And I grew up in a neighborhood that was far from the lads in Metallica. And they followed the music that they wanted to do. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. I mean, I didn't know them, but they're in my neighborhood. And I look at them with such fondness. And I'm saying, you know, I could have been like one of their, you know, one of the people in that, you know, if I had pursued that. But that's not why I'm very happy where I am right now, because it's my life. So, but I would
Definitely.
say to new people, you know, you got to do what's you're going to feel really comfortable with. I mean, because I can tell you, doing commercial music is like you're at the mercy of people that, like, will hear one little tiny chord and not like it for some reason. You have no idea why they don't like it. It's really subjective. But
I know
you
exactly what you're talking about.
you have to go along with it because they're paying the bill. You know, it says, well, this is going to be your third rewrite, and if this doesn't work, we'll give you what's called a kill fee, and then you're done, and then we'll go to another composer agency, and excuse me, not a composer, another music production company to do this commercial. And that happened with commercials all the time. I mean, I worked on I worked on commercials from like the mid 90s to the mid 2000s, or maybe up until 2010, 2000s. Well, no, that's not the full 2000s. Up to about 2009, I worked at a really cool music production house that was run by one of the guys who was an arranger, producer, and also a synthesizer programmer for like David Bowie, Michael Jackson. Worked on some big albums, right? And he parlayed that that street cred into having a real kick-ass commercial music production company. And so, like, he would find guys that are good. I guess I was good, and I worked for him on and off, like, for 10 years. But I'm one of like 30 guys, right? So I did that for a while. Now, I did that for a while. This is after Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And Killer Clowns from Outer Space has its own story. I mean, basically, when it was released in like no theaters. It was out for like a day and a half at every city. They only made a limited number of prints. So anytime it got a good review the Chiara brothers will tell you the same thing. Anytime it got a good review in the city, people would come to see it. Oh, I read the review in the papers. You know, like the paper came to my doorstep. I read the review because I felt like seeing the movie this weekend. Oh, there's a crazy movie. It kind of reminds me of Beetlejuice, sort of. I think I want to see this movie. And you go to the movie theater and it's gone, right? So,
right.
Chris Young, who did Hellraiser, right?
Oh, yes.
I went to school with him, right?
Okay.
I also went to school with the guy who did the music for the Matrix, right? And so, not the guy that made Don Davis did the Matrix, but Christopher Young, I told him, you are so lucky that your movie was in the theaters for like 6 weeks. I mean, I said,
Yeah,
your
that was
movie
long in
was in the
those
theater
days.
so long. Your first movie, I saw it twice, right?
Yeah.
I said, I want to see that movie again. I kind of like what Chris did. So I said, you're so lucky. It's taken 35 years for it to come out of the closet, so to speak, because the fans have spoken. I mean, if something's good, that's why I think you
Yeah.
shouldn't be discouraged if something isn't like a raving success the second you do. It may take a while to find an audience. And then again, it may never find an audience. That's just the way it is. I worked on so many projects that will never, ever see the light of day. They're so mired in lawsuits and copyright problems that
Oh my goodness.
ownership problems. They'll just never, really great stuff that everyone put a lot of work into it, and it's just sitting on a shelf. And who knows, they might show up um, at a film convention at some point. But I hope I'm not going off into crazy
No,
conspiracy land.
actually, you really covered a lot there. My question is, did you ever think that that the theme
Mhm.
for Killer Clowns was going to become this celebrated? Because when I say Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a cult classic, I mean
Mhm.
just that.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I totally understand what you're saying. When I first saw the movie, and they came up to the scene where in that in the forest, there's that spaceship tent. I
Hmm.
fell in love with the movie. I says, I'm all in. I am all in. I'm going to do whatever it takes to do this movie. And before that, let me set the stage. Before that, when I got a call from a friend of mine that I worked with on a number of projects, and he was working at the Disney company at the time, because I was working at the Disney company too, on and off. It done the Wonderful World of Disney theme, all kinds of stuff for the Disney Channel,
Wow.
all kinds of promotional stuff. And he said, I have some friends that I used to work with in commercials in DC, back east in Washington D.C. And they're out here. They're doing special effects and visual effects, and they did their first movie, and they're having a hard time finding composers that they like. And I recommended you, but you're such a serious composer, you may not want to be. It may not be something that's your cup of tea. And I go, well, why would that be? He says, well, the title alone. I go, okay, what's the title? I go, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And I go, if there's a dinosaur in there, if there's dinosaurs and a spaceship and a flying saucer and killer clown, I'm there. I'm there. There
I
were
mean, that's
there
a
were
party,
Yeah, absolutely. And, totally agree. And before that, I had seen Richard Elfman's Forbidden Zone.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought to myself, I would love to do a movie like that, where it's like, wow, I don't understand this movie, but I want to see it again. That kind of
Yeah.
thing. I go,
The
that's
realm
what
of sci-fi horror,
yeah.
I mean, there's only been like a handful. And then I was just having this conversation earlier with somebody today. I was like, if it wasn't for Alien having 1,000 sequels and Predator having a,
Mhm.
1,000 sequels, it's like there wasn't really a whole lot of room,
Right.
for anything new. So I was like, shit, for
And
Killer Clown.
I love Alien. I love Predator. I love Predator so much. I have a bunch of fan theories. Um, so you and I will talk about that when we see each other, maybe at a convention one of these days,
For sure. I
if I
hope.
ever get invited to one. But in any event, so so you asked me, did I think it was going to become a success? Well, around that time, Tim Burton released Beetlejuice. And I thought, this makes sense. It's Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's like horror comedy. It has a little sci-fi in it, just like, and I love Beetlejuice. Absolutely loved it. And so I had to audition for the movie, and I picked a scene when the kids first come up to the spaceship,
Yeah.
and they get in and they get chased out, and then the clowns come back to life and march on the town. And I figure if you only saw one scene of the movie, saw that scene, it's like really sets the, it's like a keystone moment, you know. So that's the scene that I chose to score as an audition.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I got a call just like a day and a half after I delivered the demo, you know, and they really liked it. Steve Kyoto called me. He says, "Well, looks like you're the chosen composer." And I said, "That's fantastic." And I just dived into it head on. I worked on it every single day. We had a relatively tight schedule. The first day of recording was Halloween. It was a Saturday, October 31st, and that
Nice.
was awesome. And I went to a Halloween party afterwards, and I was says, "This is so perfect." What? I just had a recording session for a movie called Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and it's going to be a great Halloween movie. That's where you meet the first. So you got to watch out for the negative feedback, because people go, just automatically assume, "Oh, it's a piece of crap." Oh God, why would you want to do that? I don't know. Why would you want to see
After
a movie
movies
called
like Basket
Beetlejuice about
Case
a,
and
yeah, you know, it's
come
like
on.
that's the title of the movie. Come on. So you know, it's amazing how many people will climb up in a tree to kick a kid down from his dreams. You know,
Isn't that something?
you just have to start off uh, accepting that people are just not going to get your shit. They're just not
Right.
going to get it. And the people that do, good for them. But anyways, you know, and I remember when after I worked on it, I had well, I kind of encapsulate the timeline. It was like probably a year or two after I worked on the film. I said, "Can I talked to the music director for the company who's still there. I said, "Can I please have the masters back? Because I want to do a record mix
Nice.
of the right, because you know there's a mix that you do for the movie, set in a specific way for a movie. I'm not going to go into all that detail. I mean,
Right.
you know, the recording engineer does that, and you format it a certain way so that it sits with everything in the movie, dialogue and sound effects. Then I wanted to do a record mix, so I did a record mix, and I was able to master it, transfer the mix onto a digital medium, which I had, you know, and then when hard drives were very efficient, I made them into, I think at the time, it wasn't WAV files yet. They were called something else. It was an Apple format. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Now they're on WAV files. But anyways, so I saved them, and that became the what you hear on the Waxworks release. Because you know, probably by this time the original tapes are all maybe degraded, you know, depending on how they've been stored. But it sounded so good that they loved the way it sounded that that we ended up using that for the vinyl LP for Waxworks.
Nice.
So in answer to your question, I had all the faith in the world in it. I always enjoyed it. I used to tell people throughout all my career, they said, "What's your favorite project?" Or, "Oh, there's a little crazy film I worked on that shows on cable every once in a while called Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's one of my favorites." And they roll their eyes up in their head. I go, "No one rolls
Currently
their
on
eyes up."
Tubi.
They don't roll their eyes up in their head now. They, you know, especially now we got a video game coming out. So
Right. Got a couple things from the crowd out here in Black Flame Land.
yeah.
So Paul asks, John, is there going to be another Killer Clowns movie, or is someone trolling us fans?
I don't think no one's going to troll the fans, but what I can tell you is that the video game's coming. I'm still working on the video game, by the way. I still have it up on my system. I'm pointing. Oh, wait a minute. Where are you? Where'd you go? Here we are. It's on my system. I'm still working on the video game, so the video game's not ready yet. But when the video comes out, I think everyone's going to be very happy. Now, will that?
Oh, I guarantee.
Will that act as a springboard? That that's my fan theory aspiration. Will that be a springboard? Will people say, "Oh, it's time to haul it out and make a film"? But what's got to be right if you're going to do a movie? I think the Kyoto brothers definitely, all three of them have to be. I say three. See, like that, three. All three of the Kyoto brothers have to be involved in it. And we can't shoehorn in stuff that other people want. It's got to come out of their brain because they have a very specific mindset. Let them do their thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like when they gave me the music score, they said, listen, we hate just about every horror movie score that we hear. We want something that we really like that's very unique. So you have to distinguish yourself and make something unique. And so I just did whatever I wanted to do. I didn't think about like, I've got to let me take the soundtrack to some other movie. Now, did I take soundtracks of classical music and put it up against? And the reason why I do that is because some classical music is very,
very dark.
Some composers, I'm looking for form.
Gotcha.
Many composers work years on a symphony, and then they just have a certain cadence and format to them. And sometimes when you throw it up against a scene, you go, "Oh, I like it." It changes. It goes from this one idea, and then there's a transition point here, which almost works perfectly with it, and then it goes to somewhere else. So it's about form. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, I'm going to take those notes and try to copy them, although sometimes it happens. Sometimes I quote motifs from other composers, which is supposed to be okay to do. But when I say other composers, I'm talking about like Brahms. I'm talking about like there's an Italian composer named Respighi who was kind of like Ottorino Respighi, who he was kind of like the Claude Debussy of Italy. And then there's a composer named Arnold Bax. And all these composers have this wonderful sense of color and melody. And so I kind of like use that as a springboard to create my music when I have to do something that's kind of orchestral, And then, so anyways, so in any event, so I had to like do that and just pray that it worked for everyone. Right. And, the Kyoto brothers came to a few other recording sessions. They liked what they heard. There was at one point that I was really on my own for like 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't hear from them at all. So we went to the sound stage, and the one thing that they really liked, that they remembered they didn't really get to talk to me about, was the scene where the clowns have that big machine and they're vacuuming up all the cotton candy things.
That shit was eerie as hell.
Yes. And they stood up, they go, "Oh my gosh, this is great. We were worried that the seventh reel," because that was at the seventh reel, people were going to put people to sleep, because the seventh reel is where you have to like reignite the story and the chase. You go into hyperdrive at that point, because you want to grab your audience and take them with the story. Even though the Kyoto brothers will tell you that their model for the script, their story structure and pacing, was from The Blob, which, by the way, I saw just for the heck of it. Yeah, I saw it for the heck of it. I freaking
knew it.
Yeah, because no one believed that there was this blob thing eating people, right? And these were clowns instead. So anyways, so when that came up, they told me, so all the other composers, when they did that scene, it sounded so lame. They had some kind of a weird circus lullaby that just what nothing worked. As a matter of fact, it made the scene look silly and stupid. And so I treated that scene as if I was doing a documentary about Nazi tanks rolling into St. Petersburg or rolling into Poland. just like a complete invasion of, I just wanted it to sound legitimate on its own end, just
Oh,
take the
it
thing
certainly
seriously.
came out that way.
Yeah. And there's some, when I do go to some conventions, I get like band nerds that come up to me and says, the scene where they're vacuuming, that's a great trumpet part. It's like, is that in 7/4? I go, yeah, it's like, it's a it's got a variety of tempos and meters in there, meters and time signatures. Yeah, it's not just straight 4/4. You're absolutely right. And he says, "Will you ever write that for an orchestra?" I go, "I already did. If you, I released a Reimagine album where we re-recorded it with an orchestra. We also did a concert for the 30th anniversary
Oh,
with
wow.
with an orchestra playing to the film, of which I would like more people to see, and I'm working on that. We
That
took a
would be
video of it.
amazeballs.
I had a really awesome orchestra, and I had there's a guy named Matthew Heitschuh. He directed it and edited it, and had I think he had like 7 cameras on the whole event. Chuck Serino, who did the sound design for Killer Clowns from Outer Space, was also there with his camera equipment, taping, getting it all taken down. So that, basically saving it for posterity. And it was a lot of energy. The Dickies played with the orchestra, and it was really awesome. And I guess this is okay. So we're going to go to really quick. Do I spill the beans? So let me spill the beans.
Feel free to spill the beans.
Nobody approached me and said, "Hey, John, you know what? It's coming up to the 30th anniversary of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. What do you think about having an orchestra at a big theater, like a 1,000-seat theater, and we project it on the screen, and you conduct an orchestra of your music? What do you think?" No one did that. That was my idea. Everyone thought it was crazy, by the way. Well, who's going to want to see that? I don't know.
Right.
If I told up in the next room and I tell you I have an orchestra there, you're gonna see a movie that you like with an orchestra playing score, and wouldn't you want? Oh yeah, it sounds great. But again, people think that, well, I wouldn't know how to do that, so I don't like the idea. You don't have to go. All you have to do is sit your ass in a seat and watch the damn thing. You don't have. I'm not asking you how to do it. I'm telling you that I'm doing it. This is, aren't you afraid you're gonna get sued by MGM? I go, well, they can't sue me. It's impossible. Why? Because I just paid them a huge amount of money in a licensing fee to do it. So they're on board with it. So if you want to come to my concert, here's where you can buy some tickets. So anyway, so that and a lot of the things I've done are things that I've designed, myself to do, because that's how much I love this little movie, and that's how much I love the fact that fans have loved this movie all these years and really kept it alive all this time. And if it wasn't for the fans' love, I would not have gone through that trouble of getting you can see it on my YouTube channel. There's an abbreviated version. I think we do the grand finale. It's like, you'll see it. It's on my YouTube channel. It's one of my YouTube videos. So you can get an idea of that.
Absolutely. And what is it under just your name, or?
Yeah, John Massari.
You want to plug that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
John Massari YouTube. I'm the only John Massari there.
Fantastic. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because it kind of reminds me of like the movie Galaxy Quest, mm-hmm. How, fans can be so immersed, in every detail of a film, mm-hmm. That they would be able to like pull those little details out. And I think that's really refreshing. Mm-hmm. And we definitely should see you more, uh, in conventions.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any planned for the future?
Well, no, I haven't been invited to any. I did something at HorrorCon LA
Ah,
because MGM wanted to make a special presentation announcement for the video game, and basically we did a Q&A, and I put on a show later on. The Dickies and I performed later on.
fantastic.
And so
Because I
that
know
was
they would.
this last September. I'm working on I'm putting the video footage together. I may release like a teaser on that. And I haven't really released many photographs. We've got some great photo stills from that whole evening, and I just want to be able to let some time go by, let the dust settle a little bit, and then come back and reveal all the really cool stuff. We had a really nice night. I had a good reception, and the Dickies as well, as always. And it's always fun to work with the Dickies. And I on the video game, I have one of the Dickies the Dickies drummer, one of the members of the Dickies, the drummer Adam Gomez, plays on the soundtrack, as well as David Ben Selig and Eddie Tater plays
Mhm.
bass. So on a few cuts, not on all of them. There's a ton of musicians playing on it. I had at one point, the budget for the music was not that high because I wanted to do some things with a live orchestra. So I put out the word in Europe that I'm looking for a small string section to do some of the strings. And this one producer calls me back, not calls me, excuse me, gets in touch with me. He says, I'd be glad to do it. I could do it, no problem. And I look at where he is, and he's in Ukraine. He's in Kyiv, Ukraine. I go, aren't you guys in the middle of a war? Yeah, but we really need to work. And I said, well,
Wow.
oh, you know what?
Kind of
Dude,
hard to say no to that.
you got the job. You got the job. He goes, no, let me just tell you, I'm a producer. I'm primarily a metal drummer, but I can record strings like and I can get classical musicians. We have some of the best classical musicians in the world. I'll get you only the best guys. And I go, okay.
That's because the best metal is in Europe.
Exactly. And so anyways, I give him the parts, and then he says, he shows them back to me. Okay, I made the parts for, I gave him the music parts for all the stringed instruments. Then he goes, I just want to make sure I got it right. Can you proofread it for me? Proofread it for him. And then I didn't. Then he says, okay, we're going to record pretty soon. I go, well, what's pretty soon? Probably in the next day. Okay. So a day goes by, 2 days go by.
Pretty fast turnaround.
3 days go by. 2 weeks go by, and I'm following the news, and I'm hearing that Russian troops are on the borders of Kiev. They're sending in rockets and stuff like that, and I'm going, oh my God, what did I do? I put these guys in harm's way. What if on their way to the recording studio,
holy shit,
they get hurt? They get blown up. Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like going, oh, this was a bad idea. I felt personally responsible. I felt like, if they die because they're playing on my dumb video game score, I'm going to just feel absolutely horrible. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, John, I have, his name is Anatoly. Is Anatoly, I have your music tracks, and I have video of the strings playing the score. I'm going,
and you can see,
you can see it on, if you go through what used to be called Twitter. Somewhere down in there, you'll see a little a promo video of the guys playing a violin in this basement, and it's like, and I go, Anatoly, is everything okay? Yeah, it's okay. We had to go do our duty for about a week, and I go, what does that mean? Oh, anyone that can hold a rifle,
that right,
has to go do stuff. And I go, man, I'm glad you got through with it. Oh yeah, everyone we're really organized here when it comes to making war against the Russians. And I go, wow, if your fighting is anything as powerful as your musical performance, I think you guys are really badass. So anyway, so
Yeah,
that's a
that's some
story that
serious
I don't think I've
dedication.
told. I have not told that story to anyone. This is an exclusive on your show.
You heard it here first out there in
Yep.
Black Flame
I
Land.
told you I was going to spill the beans. So
You
there you
better
go.
get this video game on that alone. Holy
Absolutely.
crap.
Absolutely.
Woo! Now, for many of you out there in Black Flame Land, John has worked for so many of the biggest companies out there doing scoring for shows and obviously film. So anything from Disney to HBO, you name it, he's done it. So you've definitely done some awesome projects like this right here for Full Moon.
Oh, I got a story for that, but I can tell you later.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Okay, you want me to tell you
As
now?
well, yeah.
Sure. I will
I
never
mean,
work for Full Moon ever in my entire life, ever. I worked for them once and will never work for them again. There's a really awesome director. His name is David Dakota, really wonderful guy. He's
definitely familiar
done
with
like
him.
a million things. He used to work with Roger Corman. He says, John, could you please do my
Yes.
film? I go, for you, I will do it. And so someone at Full Moon said, listen, if I were you, this is when you had to actually deliver tapes, not send audio files.
Oh,
so you
yeah.
had to like it was like, it called a DA88. It was an 8-track digital tape that had all the music on it. And I said, and by the way, the tape that they gave me, the videotape that they gave me to score to, had no dialogue and no sound effects. It was like a silent film. So I was just going blind on it. I just assumed what it was about. So someone at the company said, listen, don't deliver the last half. Why? Why is that? Because they won't pay you. You have to hold that. You literally have to hold your tapes ransom. So that's what I did. I held my tape ransom and I said, I need to have a bank check. And and I had them give me the number, and so I can call my bank and say, someone wrote me a check, and this is the bank, this is the routing number, this is check number, this is okay. That ID's up there, picked it up, dropped it off, and I said, I'll never work. There's just the people that I work with. I don't know how it is now, but they were unscrupulous. They were just unscrupulous, and they had communication problems. You couldn't get a call in because they had like this,
my goodness,
wacky phone system that, like, the music, the quote unquote music director, which turned out to be a nice guy. He was a really cool guy. He would tell,
thank goodness.
At one point he says, at what point are you going to deliver the music? I go, I've been calling. I have 3/4 of the movie done. I've been calling in, and my calls are not going through. I've been leaving messages. So anyways, I'll never work for them again. But although it was fun to work on that movie, I had a lot of fun working on the movie.
It's Puppet Master. How could you not have fun with that?
I had fun composing the music, and other people that have worked with that company before, I tell them that story, and they said, yeah, that's the way it goes over there. So
you've even been a part of the Wizarding World.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know myself, a huge nerd of the Harry Potter series. So
that is from there was a company that would do behind the scenes, like very sophisticated behind the scenes, practically do like a feature length deep dive study into how a particular made. And so they used my music in that particular the Wizarding World behind the scenes video. Yes,
that had to be an absolute blast for you.
Yeah, it was. I would love to do the original, but I'm not hooked up in that scene yet. But there's still time. I got a lot of miles left on me.
Oh, absolutely. And then you've even done some scoring for one of my favorite shows of
Right.
all time.
Right.
When I think of crime dramas, I look back to The Shield because
Mhm.
it was just so groundbreaking,
Mhm.
and it's just amazing that your music was uh, a part of that. What
Yeah,
was it like
that
doing it for that crime drama series?
well, it's really cool. That's my association with a company called Extreme Music.
Ah,
So that's through them, and the way I worked, I mean, there was a certain kind of music I used to listen to when I went to college. I worked at an oil refinery, and sometimes I would just like either get to work too early, or I would leave and I didn't feel like going home, and so I would hang around in the neighborhoods. This is in a part of LA called San Pedro, and
mm,
around San Pedro was there's Long Beach, there's Wilmington, there's what is it called, Ladera Heights. Anyways, these cool neighborhoods where you've got it's very mixed ethnicities, and a lot of lowriders, the cars that bounce up and
sure.
down. They play the best music.
Oh,
They play the best, and so
you
I just
betcha.
used to hang around and just kind of like take in the music from the neighborhoods. Luckily, I didn't get hijacked or anything like that, but I wasn't giving off um, victim
You weren't
vibes.
oozing
That's for sure.
machismo.
Yes, right. But I was just there listening to music, and so it's like that. So it was like an interesting combination of slow jam R&B mixed with uh, you know uh, it wasn't called synthwave yet. What was it called? I guess club and house
Oh,
music.
gotcha. Hmm.
Yeah, and so it's like it kind of like mixed them together, and that's what ended up
And I
in
always thought that the music, I mean, it could go from what you just described
Mhm.
to metal
Right.
in some points, like when they were getting ready to go out.
It's
Uh,
very dynamic the way they
yeah,
approach music on
just a
that.
crazy score.
Yeah.
But a lot of people out there might not know, that you've done a lot of horror stuff as well.
Hmm.
Not just Killer Clowns, like from the Dark.
Hmm.
Um,
That was
let's
very interesting. There's some actors in that was like one of their first thing. That was really bizarre. That
sure.
was a really cool concept, and it's like a classic horror concept. Let's take a location, we put a bunch of people in it, and one by one they die off. So the movies gets cheaper and cheaper to make as you lose your cast. And it was just a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. That was directed by a friend of mine that lives in Texas. And why is my
Texas puts
friend's
out a
name?
lot of good
Give me his first name. Just his
indie
first
horror.
name. What's that?
I said Texas tends to put out a lot of really good indie horror.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? Okay, look up the film. Look up the film. Big. Not Bigfoot. I did a movie with it has like a Bigfoot. It's a horror movie. Oh my goodness, are you going to edit this?
I could.
Okay, edit. You got to edit this part out because it's slowing me down now. It's like I want to go to. Okay, I got to take a second now. I got to go to IMDb. I'm really having. I'm really beside myself that I forgot his name.
No worries.
Because I've worked with him on several projects and that we've never met in person.
That's not the first time I've heard that. There's another gentleman that I've had a lot of directors on my show
Mhm.
named Phil Herman, but it's like every director that he's asked me to interview.
Mhm.
They're like, I've never met him in person, but I've talked to him online. And he's like super awesome.
Right. Wow.
So
Why is that
no
happening?
worries on that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times that's the way this business works.
Mm-hmm.
Especially post COVID and
Right.
shoot, you name it.
Hold on. Just bear with me. I'm really embarrassed now.
Oh, no
Okay.
worries at all. No, not
And
at
then
all.
my
Anything
came
goes on
up,
the underground.
page. This is like this is like when this is why like certain talk shows, they have a laundry list of what you talk about and you don't deviate away from it because they want to avoid situations exactly like what we're going through right now.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Okay. Okay. So I just finished a horror movie, I should say, by someone I did meet, Tom Devlin, called Teddy Told Me So.
Ooh, we like that.
Teddy told me to. That's really cool. And I think that's he's already got like a doll of the main monster. And then
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Nice.
Monster in Space, the game. Son. Wow, there's more stuff that shows up that okay. Cherokee Creek is the name of the movie. And it was about Bigfoot.
Yep.
And it's directed by none other than my good friend Todd Jenkins, who's also a really great actor. He's also a character actor, and he's a filmmaker, and he's a crack editor. Just an awesome editor. He worked on a movie that was one of these movies that will never see the light of day. It was a comic book movie where a comic book character comes to life and he's like a superhero, and this little kid who loves this guy, loves this comic book character, goes into the comic book world to help him battle the forces of it. It was really awesome. It'll never get shown. we worked our asses off on it and nothing happened to it. It's just really crazy. So okay, so that movie that you showed me with the little girl in the cabin, that was one of his productions, one of Todd Jenkins' productions. And I did that, gosh, that was like 2008. I was around the time that I did the Cell Part 2, I think. Yeah, that one. That was really crazy. That was really crazy. That was a really sick story. And that's one of those. Okay, so the funny story about that movie is that they gave me the script, right? And I read the script and I said, this is a fucking great story. This is scary as hell. This is incredible. Then they finally showed me the first director's cut. And I'm looking through the movie. I'm going, wait a minute, hold on a second. Going through the script. Where's page 28 through 38, 34? What happened to that? So we had to take that scene out. That's like the best scene in this whole. We just couldn't shoot it. We didn't have time.
Oh man!
I go, wow. Can you do like a behind the scenes? I'm like, can I describe it to the people?
Shit, do a deleted scene on the DVD.
That would be nice if it was a deleted scene if it got shot.
Oh shit! They didn't even
shoot it. Yeah.
Damn it.
So anyway, it's crazy. So okay, hit me with another one. See who's next. See what my reaction is.
I think we got one more for you here. Oh, this one here.
Oh, Final Stab. Yeah, that was David Dakota directed that, and that had some very alluring music. The girl that played the lead in that, she was really good. She was like this dominatrix kind of chick with like severe dominance vibes, right? And she was like, it's almost like
little whippy.
More than that, man. More than that. And that was cool. That's another thing where you have one location and little by little people die off back and forth. And I think that was David Dakota's company's Rapid Heart Pictures first thing, and he wanted me to launch it off. I had done another movie for Dave Dakota called Skeletons that was quite 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 an interesting film in that he shot it. I'm looking up on IMDb. We're having fun, right? Didn't you say that you wanted fun? Here
Anything
it is.
goes.
Skeletons. No, that's not it. Here it is. Skeletons, directed by David Dakota. Okay, get this cast. Here's the cast. Christopher Plummer, Dee Wallace, James Colburn,
damn,
Paul Bartel. Let me see. Kathleen Noon, Piper Laurie.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Carol Baker.
Got some heavy hitters in there.
Yeah, Carol Baker. And I go, Dave, how did you get all these actors and actresses? And then he goes, John, people have to pay their alimony. So this on the Universal lot.
Sad but true in Hollyweird.
Yeah, this was shot on the Universal lot, and he says, John, you have to do it with an orchestra. And I said, I agree with you. So we recorded it with an orchestra, and it was a lot of fun. And it's on. And I had never released the soundtrack album to that. I guess I should one day, but it did well on HBO. But it's just like one of these movies that, and believe it or not, Charles Band had some kind of produced it in some way. I think Charles Band took it over, maybe, from the original company that had it. Anyways, so that's every film you work on has drama.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, that's especially true in indie film.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Out of all the different genres that you've done composing for, would you say that horror has been the most rewarding, or because I mean you've done so many different types of shows, films,
right.
all the big companies. But
I have to say horror has a special place in my heart, right? And because you can have such a huge range, a gamut of emotions that you can put into a film, because sometimes you need beauty. A good example of that is in The Exorcist, right? The Exorcist theme is actually a very beautiful piece of music. Was not written for The Exorcist. It was a piece of music onto its own that was recorded years earlier that completely embodies the mood of like innocence caught within evil. I think that's emotion there, and it's become a trope where you hear people kind of copy that. I mean, you listen to the score to Halloween. It's basically like kind of like a ripoff of the Exorcist theme. But no, I really like I love the horror community. They're a very in tune population of the music and movie loving community, and they have their own community. It's very beautiful people, very creative people. I think horror,
best fans in the world.
Yeah, I think horror brings out a lot of creativity in people, evidence of which you can see at a lot of the conventions where people get dressed up in cosplay, and they have their own repertory of cosplay that they do from their favorite horror movies, and they're just nice people. You know, you go to a horror convention and there's just like a cool vibe. It kind of reminds me, if you ever go to a comedy concert, see a comic perform live, everyone showing up to the comedy concert is happy because
Oh
they're
yeah.
gonna laugh. You know, you're going to a place where a bunch of people are going to be laughing, so you're already happy. And at a horror convention, I mean, people are there because they enjoy it and they have a passion for it, and
Oh man.
I think they can express themselves.
It's like nothing else.
There's a atmosphere of you know, the playing field is level now, whereas people that were normally somewhat withdrawn, they can come out of their shell, you know, and
Sure. It's like a sense of
and be
belonging.
appreciated, you know, and be appreciated. That's always one. It's amazing how many beautifully creative people are in the horror fan community. It's incredible.
It is absolutely, and definitely hope that you know, you'll definitely come out to a lot more, because you know, a lot of the
Oh
Black
man,
Flame
if I get
universe.
invited, I'm there. You know, I'm there. I just can't show up. You know, it's kind of rude. You know, but
For sure.
I always like to find out something about the fans. You know what they do, what's their passion. Everyone has a little passion in their lives, and they don't often get a chance to express it.
That is so true. And I definitely feel that there is a demand, you
Hmm.
know, for you to be at more of these conventions, because you know, the music of Killer Clowns is just as important as the characters that are
Hmm.
in there. You know, it's like one of the things I've always felt about even modern day, you know, horror films, and let's say in the last 20 years, you
Hmm.
know, the music really sets up, let's say, a kill. It really sets up,
Hmm.
oh, you know, the boogeyman is coming. You know, every step of the way, it just, music as a whole can
Hmm.
just get you right on the edge of your seat, like, oh shit, I know something's gonna happen. I just don't
Right.
know when. And people start to sweat.
I just love one of my favorite composers. He does the Conjuring.
Oh,
That's
okay. Yep.
Joseph Bishara,
It's the
and
best part of the film, if you ask me.
yeah, it's really great. Real artist, a real artist, and I just admire his and his approach.
Absolutely. Even you know, shoot, Insidious, like that,
Hmm.
the strings
Hmm.
in the very beginning when they show the title,
Hmm.
that always gripped me. Like I'm in for a hell of a ride.
Right.
But even if I get disappointed, I don't give a shit, because the beginning of the film totally gripped me. And I can remember, you know, when I was in Kent State getting my music degree,
Hmm.
uh, you know, we got to the composing part, and I'm just like, yeah, I kind of knew I was out of my depth there, but
Hmm.
you've definitely taken that form and giving us these nightmarish themes that are just amazing.
Well,
You
it's
know,
I endeavor to continue and to always explore new types of musical frontiers, which I'm very happily doing with the Killer Clowns video game. I'm fascinated that you
I can't
that
wait till that comes out.
I'm fascinated to learn more about your music. I heard little bits and pieces of it, and I really your metal band. You're primarily drummer, and what else?
I do play piano.
Uh-huh.
I haven't done it in a long time.
Hmm.
Occasionally, you know, throughout some of the albums I've done in the past, I was able
Hmm.
to do a little bit of key work here and there just to
Hmm.
kind of add to a song.
Hmm.
But even as a drummer, I do look at, you know, all of the different pieces and how each musician can bring something to the table that can really create the
That's
mood,
always
because I'm a
key.
lyricist as well.
Oh wow. Yeah, I got.
Just can't sing.
Join the club.
Oh, I'm not alone. Holy shitballs. All right, great. Because people are always like, really? You wrote those lyrics? Well, why aren't you singing them? I'm like, I'm no Don Henley, man. I'm not behind the kit with like a mic headset.
Right.
I can't do that stuff because when I'm behind the kit, I'm in a completely different zone.
That's awesome.
That's just me,
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, and there's nothing I gotta say. You could identify with this. Often, like when I'm cutting drums, I'll get in the room with the drummer, and he says, "Yeah, it's going to be really loud." And I go, "Yeah, I know, but I have these headphones to protect my ear, but I'm never gonna experience, because the air is actually displacing air, and it's actually hitting you.
Yes,
I'm never gonna be able to feel that again. So I want to at least be with it. That's why I think it's really encouraging to see how much live music is being performed, because it is truly a much different experience than just listening to it on headphones or cranking up your sound system. And I'm so glad to see people perform. It's really awesome. And there's some bands that, like, hey, the guys are up there in years, but they can still play their music,
absolutely, as long as they're not
and
using
the new
backing tracks.
bands. What's that?
I said, as long as they're not using backing tracks.
Right. Wow. I don't even know. I don't even know if I could tell these days. I last big place I went to where I saw a bunch of bands. I mean, they were all playing live, and they all sounded really good. And these aren't like famous bands. These are just like people.
Trust me, all the talent is in the underground. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's no kidding. No kidding.
They care. It's because they care. They don't have some, $1 million, engineer, making them sound good, whether they
don't
suck
have
or
to,
don't.
Or they don't have to go with the fear of, like, our audience is expecting to hear exactly what they hear on the album. You know what I mean? I remember
that kills bands. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember Frank Zappa used to talk about that all the time. And go, why wouldn't you want to hear a different version of a guitar solo than that's on the album? Because it's going to be special that night, And there's some bands, they just play they memorize their solo from the album, and they just keep playing it.
Absolutely. Well, it has been an absolute blast getting a look into the genius of the composing that you've done, not only just for Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but every project you've touched. It's like, it's so personal. The vibe is always just dead on. What message would you like to leave with the fans out there that have tuned in, and to get a kind of a glimpse into your mind of how this all came about?
He was having bad dreams before. He was taking a nap, but he needs dad to move him back to sleep. I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm really honored that you asked me to sit here and blab forever. I hope you edit that part out where I couldn't remember. If he saw that, he would be hurt. He would literally cry. But anyway, no! I'm really have been blessed to be able to work with some talented people and very creative people. And what's always wonderful is that working with creative people where everyone contributes their thing that's very special, that they can bring together into, like, whether it's a movie or whether it's a song or anything like that. There's nothing like that. And that's the trick, is to find those people that you work well with, that can complement each other.
It's all about synergy. If
There you
everybody
go.
has the same goals in mind, a
So how do we?
project going to be
Oh, so
that much better.
yeah, yes, yes, and you obviously been around the block a little bit, where you know those
Too much.
that concept takes place. So do we give a hug to everybody? Let's see. He's kind of creepy. He's
uh,
kind of cute.
you know, I really think it's beyond the creepy. It is considered cool.
Hmm.
To a point where people are like rooting for the clowns in the film to do their thing.
Hmm.
And that's what horror is all about. It's not about who ends up surviving, it's about all the awesome stuff that, the villains can do. And we love
Right,
our villains.
right.
Whether it be Freddy, Chucky, or any of those great clowns and killer clowns. So and like you said, the fans have spoken.
Yeah.
They have a video game coming. What does that
Yes.
tell you? If
Killer
you
Clowns from Outer
haven't
Space,
seen the
the
film,
game. Yeah.
yes. If you haven't seen the film out there in Black Flame Land, and I'm pretty sure most of you have, especially from all the comments, but it is currently on Tubi. It's free. God damn it.
Yeah.
Go watch it. If you haven't, man, I'm telling you, once the movie starts and that music hits, you are sucked into John's world and the Kyoto brothers at the same time. Just a great story and a great film. And let's face it, cult classic.
Hmm.
There's a reason for that.
Oh
Every
yeah.
time somebody
It
sees it,
resonates
it
with
grows.
people so much. People like it. I think it sparks their creative part of their psyche as well. Considering all the fan art that's generated from Killer Clowns, it's just
Just like you
amazing.
were talking about, the tattoos at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Right. People, I
there's a
mean, people,
reason people
that's a
do this.
commitment to have a sleeve, like your whole arm were the highlights from the movie. Or there's that in Ohio, that he travels all over the place. I think he's retired, and he goes on vacations and stuff like that. He has giant uh, on his back, like colorful, so tastefully done. It's incredible. It's If you go through some of my likes on my Facebook and likes on my Instagram, you might run across them, but it's just epic, just epic. That's just body art. And then there's people that do sculpture. There are professional set designers that create their own pro just to have in the studio.
I mean,
My
it's
goodness.
it's dedication because
Yeah.
what everybody that worked on that film helped create history.
Hmm.
And we appreciate that and so much more. And me personally, because I'm like a multi kind of a fan. I love
Hmm.
a lot of different genres. Obviously, horror is my favorite,
Hmm.
but I've got to hear your work on so many of those other things as well. And it's top notch. So anybody
Thank you.
out there that thinks that any kind of horror film, or let's say you love a good crime genre, or something like that, music definitely makes it that much better. And we're just so thankful that we have guys like you who can bring these stories to life in an amazing way and create all those emotions, not just from the actors but from the music. And when they combine, it's like holy shit balls. So thank you so much
Well,
for all
thank
the
you
good
very
work
much.
that
I
you
really
do.
appreciate it, and that motivates me
Absolutely.
to dig deeper and work that much harder.
Most definitely. Always musicians, let me tell you, musicians, indie actors, always humble. Even though you've done
Deliver.
like some monumental things. Just totally humble, and that's because we care about our craft. So, as you guys are settling down for the night, getting ready for that last work day, and you got visions of all the beautiful clowns from Killer Clowns of Outer Space, just remember, John made that shit happen. But most importantly, stay heavy. Possibly. Because my computer sucks.